Hi, good afternoon, everyone. We're very excited to have you on today's webinar. And we are in partnership today with Carl Newell from Access Employment. And we're super excited to deliver you some amazing content today on building a brand for your job search. We've had a really positive day. It's Friday. The job numbers came out and they were very positive. And building your brand is probably one of the most important parts of your job search. So I'm very excited to hear what Carl from Access has to say today. So before we get into the webinar, just wanted to go through a couple things. First, I wanted to just talk about torontojobs.ca. We've been conducting a lot of webinars, mostly with Access in conjunction. We've had a great synergy happening. They have such great advice for job seekers and resources. So we're really happy to be able to partner with them. And we've been doing these webinar series since the pandemic started. Just to really help people in their job search, give information. We know it's been very difficult. A lot of people have been laid off and things have changed in a lot of people's employment statuses. So we're really happy to be able to deliver this content to you. I also wanted to mention that if you are on Facebook, our president does go live every day at 12 o'clock on our Facebook group. So if you want to join us, he covers a variety of different topics from interviewing to resume tips. And it's a very informative session. You can ask questions. So we do have that happens daily as well. And I do want to mention just a couple things before Carl dives into his presentation in regards to Zoom itself. We will have the Q&A open throughout the duration of the webinar. So feel free to, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little Q&A button. Feel free to ask any questions you want throughout the course of the webinar. We will be doing a Q&A period towards the end. I'll come back on the screen with Carl and we'll facilitate any questions that you may have. We do have a lot of people on the webinar today, so we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. If not, it does give us some data. So Carl and his team at Access will be able to answer any questions following the webinar if we don't get to your questions. In terms of the webinar today, it'll be about 40 minutes, give or take, and then we'll do the Q&A preceding that. So I want to just get right into introducing Carl today. So Carl's worked in employment services for approximately 5 years and has assisted over 800 job seekers in finding employment. Carl is passionate about helping his clients to achieve their employment and personal development goals. He's very knowledgeable in all facets of job search and enjoys sharing this knowledge with motivated job seekers. So again, I think building your brand is probably one of the most important things you can do to stand out in your job search. You have your resume tools, your interview tools, but this part is what really makes you stand out. So I'm sure Carl's going to give us a lot of great information. So I pass it over to you. And thanks everyone for attending today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Rachel. Hi, everyone. And I want to thank Toronto Jobs for having me as well. And today we are just going to go through this very important workshop in regards to building your brand. Our goal is to assist you with your resume and cover letter throughout this particular workshop. So just to give you a little background on Access Employment. So we have a mission, and it is to assist job seekers from diverse backgrounds to integrate into the Canadian job market. So we're very passionate about this. As you can see by the number below, we have assisted over 34,000 job seekers. We have over 2,200 employer connections, and we have 30 tailored programs to help job seekers obtain their goals. We also have 6 locations in the GTA. So that is in Toronto, Scarborough, Mississauga, North York, Brampton, Markham, and Newmarket. We also have 3 national programs, and also our online services program is we have just implemented that as well. So here is the agenda for today. We are going to be talking about our personal profile. That is like business cards or 30-second summaries. We're going to be talking about resumes and its specific components. We're going to be speaking about resume types and keywords, which is very important. A lot of people miss this when developing their resumes. We're going to teach you how to master your resume and to create a targeted, tailored resume, which will also include accomplishment statements. We'll then move on to cover letters and professional references. So this is the agenda for today. Now, in regards to your personal profile, it is a way for you to convey your uniqueness in a powerful way and demonstrate what you can offer an organization. You have to be able to manage how others perceive you through your knowledge, skills, and experiences. So this is essentially a brand that you will have to develop for yourself. Believe it or not, companies do not just have brands, but individuals do as well. Everyone has a personal brand, and we have to be able to communicate that brand effectively because it's what really makes us different from others in the labor market or job seekers in general. So this is very important, and we're going to discuss this today. Okay, so the following career portfolio tools are available for communicating your personal profile. So we have the profile card or a business card, 30-second summary, a resume, cover letter, and list of professional references. And this is very vital because we can see that brands and companies, they have various means of communicating their brand and advertising. They have social media advertising, they're advertised on billboards, on TV, and it's similar with us as well. We have ways to advertise our individual brand or our personal brands to companies as well, okay? Now, a 30-second summary is a summary of key information regarding yourself that you can use when introducing yourself to employers or contacts. It's also known as an elevator pitch. The reason why it's called an elevator pitch is because by the time you reach your destination from the ground floor in an elevator to your place of destination, the floor of destination, that's the time it should take for you to say your 30-second summary. So a 30-second summary can be used at networking events and is also a good start to the interview question, tell me about yourself, okay? So I would strongly suggest trying to develop a 30-second summary. A 30-second summary includes your work experience, your qualifications, education, and training, other specific skills that you have related to the job that you want to obtain, and the key characteristics that make you unique. As we go through the Building Your Brand workshop, you'll see we emphasize uniqueness because you have to be able to demonstrate to an employer that you're different than everyone else and they should hire you. Okay. So a 30-second summary may end with a question that gives the listener an opportunity to speak. So a 30-second summary is not just a pitch or a presentation. It is used in a conversation. So it should end with an open-ended question that directs the conversation towards a topic of the industry or profession or organization. Okay. Now, the main tool that we often use in order to market ourselves to employers is a resume. Okay. It allows you to showcase your skills, experiences, and accomplishments as they relate to the position that you are seeking. So the resume, oftentimes when I ask someone, hey, what is the purpose of getting a resume? They say, well, the purpose of a resume is simply to get the job. That person is along the lines of the truth, but really it's actually to get an interview. It's to get your foot in the door. Hardly anyone is hired simply based on their resume, okay? It's simply to get your foot in the door. It's also an opportunity for the employer to eliminate the majority of candidates and focus on those who may seem to be the best fit for the position. This is why your resume has to be targeted, as we will speak about in a moment. So here are the sections of a resume. Okay, this is the generic components. First, you're going to start off with your contact information. Okay, then you'll go to the objective, keyword summary or headline. Then your experience summary is next. then your relevant work experience. Okay, so the experience summary and the relevant work experience, this can be combined, they're quite similar. Your education and training is next. Your professional certification is next. And then is other relevant skills, awards, and interests. A lot of people at the bottom of their resume, they put references available upon request. I can tell you that you no longer need to do that. That is an old style of doing resumes. In regards to the contact information, you want to ensure that your name is in the largest font on your resume. Okay, as you can see, if you are going to look at a company advertising their brand on a billboard, the name of the company is typically in the largest font. This is what you need to do on your resume as well. Your name needs to be in the largest font. Okay, we're going to talk about each individual component throughout this presentation. Okay, so there's 3 types of resumes. There's a chronological resume, functional resume, and the combinational resume. So a chronological resume is a resume that highlights your work experience. It's your work experience, your education, and professional development are listed, and this is very important, it's listed in reverse chronological order, with the most recent being first. Okay, very important. Even though it's called a chronological resume, you are listing your work experience and your professional and educational experience in reverse chronological order. All right, this is the most used resume. I believe I've sent a template as well, should you want to use this type of resume as well. Okay, so there's advantages and disadvantages to a chronological resume. The advantages is it emphasizes your work experience, your job title, your employers. It reflects a steady work history, and it's easy to follow. Because it's so easy to follow, it's widely used and understood. But there's disadvantages to this type of resume as well. It will actually reveal gaps in work history. Remember, a chronological resume is emphasizing the time that you have worked at a particular place of employment. So if there's gaps in your work history, it will be revealed in this type of resume. It will also reveal lack of experience. It may not be suitable if you're changing careers or fields, and it will reveal if you have been doing the same job for a long period of time. But oftentimes that might not be considered a disadvantage based on the employer. So a functional resume. A functional resume is a resume that highlights your skills, accomplishments rather than your work experience. So it lists what you are good at and what you have accomplished at the beginning of your resume. Then at the end of your resume, it briefly summarizes what you have done. Again, so this type of resume focuses on your skills and your functions, whereas the chronological resume focuses on your experience. Okay, so there's a bit of a difference there. So the advantage of a functional resume, again, is that it focuses on relevant skills and achievements. It's useful if you are a new graduate, have a gap in employment, or are changing careers. Again, because of the fact that a new graduate might not have a lot of work experience, they can actually emphasize their skills and their functions on this particular resume in comparison to the chronological resume. So it can be easily tailored to a specific job, and relevant information can be highlighted. The disadvantage of this resume is employers may require a specific work history, so it may not provide the employer with sufficient information. With this type of resume, it's also difficult to follow sometimes. So you may have to address questions about employment gaps. Now there's a combinational resume. A combinational resume uses aspects of the chronological and functional resume. It lists jobs in chronological order, and it highlights responsibilities and accomplishments within each job. you find that where people use chronological resumes is when job seekers are applying for positions that might be leadership positions, managerial positions, or positions that are require a lot of experience. Okay. So the advantage is it emphasizes steady employment along with skills and accomplishment. It can be tailored to a specific job. It's easy to follow and understand. And the disadvantage is that it may require more than 2 pages. Now, someone might be asking, how's having a resume over 2 pages a disadvantage? So you actually do not want your resume typically to go past 1.5 pages. If you can, if possible, it's also good to keep your resume to 1 page. The reason being is that employers they're receiving so many resumes, they don't have time to read 3, 4, 5 pages of a resume. It's just too much. So if your resume is going on to 3 pages, you need to fix that resume, because chances are you have too much information and it is not tailored to the job posting. Okay, so factors to consider. A question I get a lot is, so what type of resume should I use? There's many resume types out there. Again, it depends on your situation. So you can see these are the factors you would have to consider. If you have gaps in work history or your maturity, so for more experienced candidates, if you are a recent graduate, lack of formal training, frequent employment changes, unrelated work experience, these are the things you're going to have to consider when deciding what resume to choose. Okay, now keywords. So keywords are words used in the job postings that indicate characteristics, skills, and experience the employer is looking for. So resumes are often scanned for keywords, and candidates may be selected for interviews based on the keywords. A lot of people, they use one resume. A lot of job seekers I've found, they've used one resume for every single position. Okay, there's no changing of words in the resume. There's no tailoring of the resume to the job posting. If that is what you are doing, the likelihood of you getting called for an interview is very low. You must use the words that are located in the job posting and add it to your resume. Now, I get the question as well, should I just copy the job posting points and then put it in my resume? No, that's not what I'm suggesting, right? What I'm saying is that you gotta take out specific keywords in the resume. So if it's asking or requiring someone to have excellent communication skills, you need to talk about communication skills within your resume. Okay. Now, I want you to know that resumes are oftentimes, especially with larger companies, they're put through a scanner called an ATS scanner. And this scanner picks up the keywords on your resume and compares it to the job posting. If the scanner does not pick up enough keywords, your resume is likely not going to be observed by the employer or recruiter. Okay, so you have to determine the keywords to be included in your resume. You select the words that indicate what is essential for the position. Now, we're going to talk about accomplishment statements. This is very important. So it's information about your responsibilities and duties to tell prospective employers what you did. Accomplishment statements tell prospective employers what you achieved for previous employers and what impact you had on their success. Both kinds of information are important. So a lot of times you find that in a resume, candidates are only putting their responsibilities of their past position, but you have to also put what you accomplished on the job. Okay, by doing that, you're able to tell the employer, I accomplished this in this place of employment, and I'm able to do it at the place of employment where I want to work. Now, there's a way you can do this to make it very effective, and it's called the Sar Technique, which stands for situation, action, and result. So number one, what you want to do is identify a situation, problem, or challenge that you address. Number two, you want to identify the actions you undertook to address that problem, and then describe the result you achieved and the positive impact it had. So accomplishment statement, it starts with an action verb, then supporting descriptive example, then the result. I'll give you an example. So you can see here, it says performed preventative maintenance scheduling on radiology equipment to minimize costly breakdown. Here we see the action verb is performed. The detail is preventative maintenance scheduling on radiology equipment, and the result is to minimize costly breakdowns. Okay, this is a decent accomplishment statement. Your accomplishment statement should not be 3 words like performed preventative maintenance. It cannot be just that. You have to expand it and make it sound something like what is written here. Now, the second point says process 500 supplier invoices in a week in a timely manner to minimize available cash discounts. Again, process is the action verb. 500 supplier invoices in a week in a timely manner. That's the descriptive detail. And then the result is to maximize available cash discounts. Okay, so it's a simple formula. Then we have here the last one. It says created a patient process and flow chart to achieve 15% reduction in patient wait times. Okay, by making your accomplishment statements sound something like this, you are actually putting yourself in front of a whole lot of people who are trying to find jobs out there because they are not using this technique. And I want to point out something very important. You can see all these action verbs are in past tense. What I normally find with a lot of resumes is candidates will say, if they worked in a company in 2002 and they stopped working at that company in 2013, they will still use present tense as opposed to past tense. But it's important that you have ED, performed, processed, and created. So ED at the end of these action verbs, okay? Okay, so now you can see here a weak statement, accomplishment statement would be increase productivity by 20%. That is pretty weak. As I said before, you can't have 2 or 3 words in an accomplishment statement. To improve it, you can say increase productivity 20% by streamlining inventory processes. All right, so that's better. Now we have here increase productivity 20% in 4 months by streamlining inventory processes. The difference between the best accomplishment statement and the better accomplishment statement is the fact that the best accomplishment statement actually gives a period of time in which the success happened, all right? Now, you need a master resume. It's very important to have a resume that serves as your base or standard resume. This resume will contain all of your work experience and all of your education and qualifications. This way, when you are applying to jobs, you can just use that one resume and then tailor it for the position that you want to apply to. All right, so targeted and tailored resume. It has to be customized. When you do this, it demonstrates that you are a good fit for that specific jobs. I've spoken with a lot of employers working with Access Employment over the years. One of the problems they usually find is that the resume is not customized to the actual position, okay? So you wanna focus on key qualifications. It highlights your specific skills, experience, and qualifications that match those indicated in the job posting. So you have to assess your skills, assess your qualifications, look at the job posting and see if you are a match. And if you are, you have to elaborate on that within your resume. Okay, so you want to research as well, very important. It incorporates information that shows you have researched the company and the posting. When you are applying for a job, when you are making your resume, it is important to research. When you're going in for an interview, it is important to research, okay? So you want to analyze the job posting, research the company, and adjust each section of your resume to highlight ways in which your background matches the job posting and the company. So the things you need to identify, as I have spoken about before, is your key skills, key experiences, and your key personal characteristics. When you're researching, you want to go on the company website and look at the company's history, their missions and values. This is oftentimes found in the About Us section, the management, the products and services, and the clients and partners. So you need to adjust each section of your resume, as we spoke about before. So your objective does not have to be really long. For example, if you wanted to work at Walmart, your objective could be seeking a customer service position at Walmart where I can utilize my skills and abilities to benefit your company. Very simple. But there's two things I have included in the objective to actually tailor it to the job posting. I said, I'm seeking a customer service position. Okay, that's targeted. And I have mentioned the name of the company as well, right? Number two is you want to adjust your profile or summary of skills. So when you look at the requirements section in the job posting, you want to take the key points in that section and then add it to the profile summary or highlights of qualification. Okay. Again, I have given a template. There should be a link or attachment of a resume that you can use. Okay. So now your work experience, that has to be tailored. Your education and training, that as well. Professional certifications and other relevant sections in your resume should be tailored and adjusted for the job posting. I just want to speak about something in regards to education and training. So if you have a bachelor's degree, you don't need to write your high school diploma. There's no need for that. It is a given that if you have a bachelor's, of course, you would have to have completed your high school. But if you have a bachelor's, you can still talk about your master's degree or your PhD, especially if they differ one from another in the area of study. Okay, so targeting your resume, using your master resume as a starting point, target your resume to a job or company of your choosing. So these are the mistakes you want to avoid. Do not use generic objective and profile statements. As I said before, target these to the positions. Do not include unrelated work experience or education. Okay. Do not include your salary history in your resume. Don't forget to include education that is in progress if it is relevant to the position. So if you are taking a certification or you are doing a degree that you have not yet completed, you can still add that in your resume. You can just write towards the right-hand side of your resume, in progress, or you can write to be completed upon this date. All right. You also have to make sure that you do not have any spelling or grammar mistakes in your resume. So have someone review your resume or look over it around 3 to 4 times. Employers really pick up on these things when you're submitting your resume. Okay. You want to make sure that your contact information is complete and current. You have to have your updated phone number on there. Okay. I know that might seem as though it's common sense, but I've had employers come to me and tell me, I've tried calling this number and no one answers the phone. And then I check with my client and they actually had changed their number. So that's very important. You do not use an email address that is unprofessional. Okay, very important. You want to have a professional email address, right? Your email address shouldn't be like blueeyes@hotmail.com or something like that. That is not professional. You want to have maybe the first letter of your first name, then your last name at gmail.com, something like that, all right? Include your name in your email address. You do not include your references in your resumes. So references should be on a separate piece of paper, okay? And you bring this reference sheet with you to the interview. You do not submit your references with your resume online. You just bring it with you to the interview. All right, so let's talk about cover letters very briefly. So the purpose of a cover letter is to introduce yourself to the employer. It's to explain why you are sending a resume. It's also to raise interest in reading your resume. And it's to provide additional information about yourself that is not in your resume, and it's to highlight what you can offer the employer. That second last point is very important. It's not simply, the cover letter is not simply, a copy of your resume. It includes additional information. And also, I want to let you know, many jobs do not require a cover letter. For instance, if you go on Indeed, if the posting doesn't require a cover letter, there's no need to give a cover letter, okay? This is the structure of a cover letter. You're going to have the candidate's information, your information, the date, okay? So then the employer information, so the name, title, organization's name, complete address. I get the question all the time. So what if I am unable to find the employer's name, the specific hiring manager's name? Number one, you can go to LinkedIn and do a little bit of research. You might be able to find the hiring manager's name or the recruiter's name, or even on Indeed, sometimes at the bottom of the job posting, you might find the recruiter's name. If not, you can put Dear Hiring Committee, okay? But you want to do your research as much as possible. So the subject line is going to start with RE, and the position title, the job ID, very important. If you find the job ID number, you need to put that on the cover letter, okay? The salutation, dear Mr., Miss, last name, okay? Then it's going to have around 4 paragraphs. And then it's really nice at the end if you can print the cover letter, sign it, and then scan it back to your email. Okay, so the first paragraph, it's really to catch the reader's attention. It creates a linkage between the candidate and the posting. It provides information on the candidate. It provides information about the position and the application circumstances. That simply means you are going to tell the employer in the cover letter, in that first paragraph, where you found the job posting, especially if you were referred to the position. You can write in that first paragraph who referred you to the position. Then you're going to state your objectives, so your learning and contribution goals. In the second portion of your cover letter, the body paragraph, again, you still want to keep the reader's attention. You want to create more linkage between yourself and the posting. You want to focus on your strengths and the way you can contribute to the company. In this particular paragraph, you're going to showcase your knowledge, your experience, your skills, your personality traits as they relate to the position, organization, or industry. And you're going to provide pointers why you would be an asset to that company. In the closing paragraph, you simply want to summarize your key competencies and provide next steps. Okay, you want to request an interview or state follow-up intentions. All right, so you want to tell the employer that simply you want to be considered for an interview. You like to discuss your qualifications in more detail within an interview, okay? Include your contact information. You always want to thank the potential employer for his or her time. So here are some tips for cover letter writing. You want to address the letter to a specific person, as I mentioned before, if possible. You want to keep the letter brief and to the point. It should not go over to 2 pages. You want to keep your cover letter to one page. You want to indicate which job you are applying for. You want to highlight several key areas of your experience and qualifications that closely match the requirements of the posting. You want to summarize in one sentence what you have to offer the company. And again, like we said for the resumes, you always want to check for typos and grammar mistakes before submitting. Your personal references. Again, the title of this workshop is Building Your Brand. Now, if you want to go to a specific company, if you want to go to a restaurant, what we normally do nowadays is we Google the company and look at the reviews. So references serve as a review for job seekers. Okay, so you want to prepare at least 3 references to whom you can direct an employer. Select people who can speak to your ability to the specific job for which you are applying. Create a separate reference document that lists your references, their titles. So these are the things you definitely need to have in your reference letter. You want to have the title of the person, okay, the organization they work in, the address, telephone numbers, and emails. Do not include, as we said before, references in your resume. You want to bring them with you to the interview. So references, possible references can be former employers, supervisors or colleagues, former clients, customers or suppliers, instructors, teachers or professors, contacts in an organization where you volunteered, but you do not want to include family or friends as a reference. Okay. So this is our workshop on building your brand. I really hope you found it helpful. We have a whole lot of resources that I believe will be greatly beneficial to you. So you can actually visit our online webinar and workshops by visiting this particular site. So accessemployment.ca/online services. And then also if you want to access our e-resources, you can visit these particular websites. We also have Online Talk English Cafe. So if you are a newcomer to Canada and you want to improve your English just by conversation and speaking with other newcomers, you can attend our Talk English Cafe. It's online as well. So please feel free to access these links. I believe they would be strongly beneficial for you. All right. I just want to thank everyone again for joining in today. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
That was amazing. Thanks so much, Carl. So insightful, and you guys have so many resources for job seekers. So I really urge all of you to check out. It's accessemployment.ca, correct?
That's correct.
Perfect. So we do have some questions that have come through. And if any of you have questions, we're going to use the next 20 minutes or so to go through those questions. So the first one I'm seeing here is there a preference with the file format for submitting resumes and cover letters? So I think they mean Word, PDF. So again, the format that they should submit their resume in.
That's an excellent question. So typically you want to submit your resume in PDF format. The reason being is that it's harder to change. Oftentimes when you submit a Word document, especially if the person might have a Mac, for example, and they don't have Microsoft Word on their computer, the format will get changed a whole lot. So typically you want to submit your resume using a PDF format.
Okay, perfect. We are getting a lot of questions about the PowerPoint slides. So maybe you just want to direct them in a place, or if you're going to share your slides, maybe we can cover that because there are quite a number of people asking.
Okay. In regards to the PowerPoint slides, these are Access employment slides. So unfortunately, I won't be able to share this slide with you. But if you visit our website and you have a consultant at Access Employment, they might be able to share these particular resources that I have shared with you today.
Perfect. Someone is asking if they were terminated from a position, should they put it on their resume?
No. So on your resume, you do not have to put the reason why you left that last job, the last job you had. That is not stated in your resume. You can discuss this within the interview.
Okay, perfect. And I think you covered this. I think the answer was in the presentation, but someone's asking the ideal number of pages for a resume.
Okay. So if you're going for an entry level job, you want your resume typically to be 1 page. The maximum though is 2 pages. If you're going to 3, 4, 5 pages for a resume, it's way too much. You know, if you're going for a leadership position that requires maybe 10 years, 15 years of experience, maybe you can go a little bit over 2 pages. But if you're reaching that 4 or 5 page mark, that's just way too much.
Okay, yeah, I agree. It just becomes a lot of information to go through, and you tend to lose the person that's looking at your resume. How important is it to have a profile card or a business card?
Good question. So you really need this profile card or business card for networking opportunities. Okay. So if you are a person who attends networking events, I would definitely say it is important. Okay. Because you are unable to give your resume at a networking event. So the next best thing is a profile card. Now I get the question sometimes, I don't have a company, I don't have my own business. What can I put on my profile card or business card? You can just simply put your position title of your last job or your occupation and then your contact information. That would suffice.
Okay, great. We have a lot of questions coming through, so we really appreciate how interactive this group is. This is great. How important is LinkedIn and having a personal website?
So I'm going to answer these questions very quickly, seeing we have a lot of questions. So having LinkedIn in this day and age, it's very important. I definitely recommend it. And in regards to a website, it all depends on your specific occupation.
Okay, perfect. I know that we do recruitment within our organization, and I think LinkedIn is probably the #1 tool that we use, not only to find candidates, but also to do a little background check on, their past profile and their history. So I think, coming from a recruiter's perspective, it's extremely important that you have a very detailed professional profile on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has so many awesome tools that you can use to really build out your network. So I would find, that would be, if you don't have LinkedIn, #1, you should definitely have it. And #2, if you're not keeping up with it on a daily or weekly basis, that's something that you should really add to your job search process for sure. So we have a couple of the similar questions. So people are asking how they can get personal help with their resume and cover letter from your organization.
Great question. So if you go on our website, accessemployment.ca, there should be a link there to register with one of our sites, or you can call the location that is closest to you once you Google our organization, and then someone will send you a link so that you can register with Access Employment, and then you can have a consultant that can work with you either in a group setting or one-on-one.
Amazing. That's perfect. Someone is asking how they should address the maturity aspect in their resume. So I think maybe they have a lot of years of experience. So how do they express that on their resume without being kind of looked over for the position?
Okay, great. So if you have experience, for example, from 1999, 1991, you don't have to put that on your resume, especially if it's not relevant to the position. I would recommend just put in your most recent relevant positions on your resume.
Perfect. All right, we got a lot more to go here. So in terms of the summary part of your resume, which one is better? So either bullet points or telling a story. So this is the summary part of your resume.
Okay, so the summary of qualifications, I would put, if you're talking about the summary of qualifications, I would put bullet points. Okay, if you're talking about a profile, I would put a paragraph.
Okay, perfect. A lot of people are asking about keywords. So there's a couple questions here about keywords. So someone's asking how important keywords are in the resume, and if there's a method to what keywords you should include.
Yes. So they're very, very important. Okay. Again, your resume will go through, usually, if it's for a larger company, it will go through an ATS scanner. That scanner picks up the keywords in your resume. If the keywords, if there's not enough keywords on your resume will not be looked at by the recruiter. Okay. So the strategy that you can use is simply just go to the requirements section, okay, or qualification section, and look at the keywords they have repeatedly used. And then you want to implement that within your resume, especially in the summary portion or the highlights of qualifications. You can also Google certain sites that will allow you to pick up the keywords that are in a job posting. So I would simply suggest go to the job posting and look at the words that are used the most. And these are the keywords you need to include in your resume.
Okay. Someone is asking, they're a little confused between the summary of qualifications and your profile. So they're looking for just some clarification on what the differences are between the two.
Okay. So a summary of qualifications usually is really, it's just how it's written, like the format. Summary of qualifications is usually in point form. A profile is simply in a paragraph. If you have a profile, you are not typically putting a objective. So I recommend, especially for those who are going for more entry level positions, it's just easier to follow. You can have an objective and then the summary of skills, okay, which is point form. So again, the major difference really, it's actually quite similar. The profile is just in a paragraph format, and the summary of skills is usually in point form.
Perfect. So we have a few questions around ATS. I think a lot of people might be a little confused, or they want to know how to manipulate the system. So maybe I can ask, maybe you can kind of do an overview. So we've had people asking about if Word or PDF is the best version when going through an ATS scanner. So that would be like the main one we're getting. And then if there's any fonts that you should avoid, and if that plays a factor in it being read.
Okay. So I'll answer the second question first. I think you should use Times New Roman or Calibri. For the font in your resume, you want to use around, the font size shouldn't be less than 11. I would recommend 12. And yeah, if you use, as I mentioned before, you want to use a PDF type of resume. Again, it's just, first of all, if it's a Word document, when it goes to the employer's email, again, it might be kind of fumbled and scrambled. The format might be all over the place. So I definitely still recommend the PDF type of resume. And just to reiterate on what I said, what an ATS scanner is, an ATS scanner simply picks up the keywords that are in your resume. So if you want to stand a good chance of being interviewed, again, just go through the job posting and look at the words that are used over and over again. And especially the section where it says requirements or qualifications, you want to put those particular words and add them to your resume. So if it says that you need over 10 years of experience, you don't want, and you have like 20 years of experience, you want to put, you have over 10 years of experience in your resume, even though you have 20 years, right? But it says over 10 in the job posting. It's still the truth. It's still the same thing. So this is an example of using the keywords. If it says excellent communication skills, if it says great teamwork skills, you need to add these skills to your resume.
Perfect. So we have someone asking, should they carry a hard copy of their resume to the interview? And additionally, would you recommend them bringing a hard copy of references?
Yes, 100%.
That was a simple one. It shows you're prepared too, right? So it's twofold.
Yeah.
Perfect. We have a couple people asking, should you include a profile picture in your resume?
No, you should not.
So reasoning for that, I think probably it's a little bit unprofessional just to have it on your, like, is there reasons that you would argue
Sure.
to do that?
Yeah, so actually, I have seen many resumes with photos of the candidate on their resume. And typically you find this because it's done in various areas of the world, which is quite common. But in Canada, employers, it's just a standard. You don't want to be judged on your appearance, right? You want to be judged on the quality of your skills and your experiences. So this is why you don't put photos on your resumes. And just to add to that, you don't want to put your birth date on your resume. You don't want to put any personal information on your resume. I know some countries, they want you to put, if you have children on your resume and things like that. There's no need to do that in Canada.
Perfect. So I'm sure this one touches a lot of people on this webinar. And I know I certainly have a lot of personal connections that have been experiencing this. So a lot of people obviously have been laid off with the current, things that are happening in the world. And a lot of people are finding it hard to keep motivated, and they're getting a little bit discouraged. I know today there was some positive news with the job numbers, which was great. So I think someone here is asking, how do they keep motivated and not get discouraged? They're a recent grad from university. They just graduated, and they're really anxious about, the prospects and their prospect of getting a position. So I think people are looking for that kind of tips on how to be motivated, not discouraged. So if you have any that you could share.
Okay. Yeah. So number one, I just want to let you know that we have a whole workshop at Access Employment, and I definitely recommend you checking it out. It's navigating your job search during COVID-19. I think you'll find that very, very helpful. And I want to let you know that during this time, people are still getting employed, okay? Employers are still hiring in various industries. I have clients that are still getting employed as well, even though it is a bit slower right now. I tell you this just to let you know that there is still hope, even during this period of time, as people are still getting employed. So one way you can stay motivated is that during this time, you can also develop your skill sets by taking, LinkedIn online learning, online courses. That this way, that when the market opens up again, and you can have a full list of skills and certifications, and that will actually improve your confidence when applying to jobs as well. I want to let you know that there's also, for those of you who have been laid off, there's a particular program. I can't go into detail here about it, but it's called the Second Career Program. And it's for people who have been laid off. The government will actually assist you in paying for you to go back to school, to go to a second career. So that's also an option again. But again, I just want to let everyone know that people are still being employed. I know at the moment it might be a bit difficult for you, but if you get that resume right, if you improve your interview skills, I believe that you should be able to get a job with the proper guidance. So we do invite you to work with Access Employment as well, and other organizations, so that you can get a job. I know you want it quickly, but it is a bit slow right now, but we are able to help.
That's amazing. And I'll just mention too, we've obviously at Toronto Jobs, we've noticed a slow down in the amount of people that are recruiting or people that are posting jobs on our website. However, over the last week, we've had a large number of jobs specifically in the tech sector, but we've also had a number of other organizations posting jobs on our site. So we've definitely seen an influx in this last week of positions on our website. So it's a good sign. I know definitely, like Carl said, it is a little bit slower, but it's definitely picking up. I can see an upward kind of slope happening on our website with the amount of postings that are there, which is great news. So you have a couple questions here about if their references are from out of Canada. So how do they handle that? Are they able to use their references if they're not in the country?
Yes, you are able to use references outside of the country. If it's possible, if the majority is in Canada, that would be all right. If you have one or two that are outside of the country, So I just mentioned one or two. So another question might be, how many references should you have? At least 3 references. That will suffice. Okay, but it's not a bad thing to have references outside of the country. Also, please let your references know that you're using them as references before you actually write their names and numbers on the sheet of paper and hand it to the employer.
Definitely, definitely. So we have a couple other questions here. So a lot of people are asking about the gap. So if they have a gap on their resume, whether it's because of COVID or they were on, at home taking care of their children, instances like that. So how to deal with the gap on your resume?
Okay. Number one, you can use a functional resume. A functional resume almost hides the gap. Okay, they will still see it, but it will be, the work experience will be at the very bottom of your resume, and your functions and skill sets will be at the very top of your resume. So this is one way to overcome that. I believe during this period of time, or after this period of time, employers are going to understand that a lot of people have been laid off. So I do not think you would have to worry too much about that. If you have the skill sets, if you have the experience, and you get to the interview, you're just going to have to communicate to the employer, hey, I was taking care of my child, or I got laid off because of COVID-19. But I want to let you know that during this period of time, it's very important to try to build, as I said before, build your skill set somehow. So that way you can tell the employer, I was laid off due to COVID-19. However, during this period of time, I developed this, this, and this.
Perfect. It's also a good idea too, if you can volunteer in different places or just show that you are continuing to develop skill sets. I mean, they don't have to be directly related to the position, but it does show your motivation. So I know a lot of people, we have a lot of people that ask us to volunteer when we do have live events, and it's great because they get to meet other employers, companies that are hiring, and it also is a great thing to put on your resume. So it's a very good idea to fill your time and just show that you're motivated in between your positions. And I think employers are very understanding. Life happens, and there's different things that do create a gap on your resume. And I don't think a lot of employers or recruiters, definitely not ours, do judge for that type of thing. So next question. I guess it's kind of related to the gap question. So I'll move on to the next one. We have time for a few more. So when it comes to salary expectation before the interview, what's the best response to that? So I guess they're asking if they've been asked on a phone, if someone's doing a phone interview and they have to go into an in-person interview, if they've asked the salary expectation before that in-person interview.
Okay.
Handle that with the best response.
Yeah, so I would recommend, again, like the slide said, we always have to research before even applying to the job. Okay, so oftentimes you can do informational interviews where you actually interview someone in the industry, and you can find out, what is the typical salary within that field. Secondly, you can go to payscale.com and you can find out what specific industries and companies are paying for that position. Or you can go to association websites and find out what the pay is. If you were to be asked this in an interview or a phone interview, before you even get the in-person interview, you would simply actually answer it the same way you would in a regular interview. But typically what I suggest is you say something like, based on my research, I believe $15 to $18 an hour is appropriate for this position. So I did 2 things there. I said, based on my research, which is very important. You always want to show the employer that you're researching. The second thing I have done is I have used a range. You don't want to say a specific number because it can be too high or too low.
Perfect. Yeah, the range is definitely important for sure. You don't want to kind of oust yourself from the role because you haven't given that range and you're not perfectly in line with what the employer is asking for. So last question, because I know it's almost 3:00. Someone's asking, I know we've talked a lot about how Access provides resume, second career. They're asking if you do one-on-one coaching.
Yes. So that actually is my role right now. I'm an employment consultant for Employment Ontario. where I help our clients one-on-one, and we navigate them through the job search. We help with all facets of job search, resumes, interview skills, job search skills, networking, everything you need to get employed. You can have a coach that will work with you one-on-one in regards to that.
That's great. So you guys offer pretty much any service that someone would need assistance with in their job search, which is fantastic. Yeah, you guys have an amazing organization. You have LinkedIn, you have Facebook. People can reach out to you multiple different ways other than your website as well, right?
That's correct.
Amazing. I know I follow you on LinkedIn, and you guys send out, I think you're sending out webinars and articles like daily, if not more than once a day. I get your updates quite often, which is great. So we just wanted to say thank you. If there's any questions that we didn't get to, we'll forward them along to Access and Carl, and perhaps they can answer them one-on-one for you. So we just want to say thank you. I want to thank Carl. I want to thank Access Employment. It's amazing that we can deliver this kind of content to our job seekers through our partnership with you. So really wanted to thank you for your time. The webinar was amazing. I know we're doing another one. I'm not sure on the confirmed topic yet, but we are doing another Access webinar next Friday. So you will receive, if you were on the webinar today, we will send out some information on what the next topic will be. And that'll be next Friday. So we really appreciate the content. Again, if you haven't visited our website, torontojobs.ca, we've had some amazing clients and companies posting on our site this week. So if you are looking for a job, you can use Carl's tips to get your resume refreshed and ready to go. And I know it's discouraging right now, but we're on an upward kind of incline right now in terms of the unemployment and the positivity that's happening surrounding the job market. And so we really wish you guys much success. Visit Access for all the resources. Make sure to go out and really spice up your profile and your brand and your resume for when it is time to, hiring is kind of in full speed again. So thanks everyone for attending. Thank you so much, Carl. We appreciate your time, and we'll see you on our next webinar.
No problem. Bye everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.